It was exponential. So I had like 300 profit month, 300 profit month, 300 profit month, 1,000 profit month, 8,000 profit month, 12,000 profit month.
Wow. So that's October, November, December. You just went boom, boom, boom to 12.
And they had talked about how they made $1 million on Etsy selling print on demand. For Christmas as well, what do people buy more? Gifts or Christmas sweatshirts? They might buy themselves...
What's up, you beautiful people? I'm Jay, and today with me I have a very special guest. It's Christina Umerez. You should know her from her YouTube channel, cuonline, where she helps people get selling with print on demand so they can do hopefully a little bit more of what they want to do with their time, kind of like what I'm trying to do. And a big part of that for both of us happens to be traveling, right? So hopefully maybe you get to see, another country for more than like 1 or 2 weeks a year or anything like that. Welcome, Christina. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great. Super, super humbled and proud and feel privileged to have you. You have a pretty awesome following. So let's start at the beginning. Who are you? Where'd you come from? And why print on demand?
I've always been I wanted to be really entrepreneurial. I had tried so many things, and especially once COVID started, I remember thinking this is going to be 3 months. I have 3 months to get a few extra dollars going. So that's when I had started looking up all these different side hustles. Unfortunately, the beginning of 2020, actually all of actual 2020, is where I was trying to learn drop shipping. That didn't work out for me. That resulted in a lot of refunds. Lost kind of a lot of money on that one, trying to run ads. And then I tried to do digital marketing on Fiverr, and I got in trouble at my job when my boss found out I was doing that.
Oh no. So what were you doing at your job? Was there a conflict or something?
Yeah, because it was a digital marketing agency, but I was targeting different people. Yeah. And technically, there is no such thing as non-compete clause in Canada. But anyways, they made me stop that.
I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I got in trouble. Yeah, I didn't really know either. So I got in trouble with that one. So I was like, okay, I guess that route is shut down. And at this point, a year had passed and nothing I was trying was really working. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to learn a hobby. And I started learning how to draw. And I actually got an iPad and I started I love doodling and I love cats. And I've had so many cats over my life. And I was actually babysitting 2 cats at the time, for the year. I started drawing them on my iPad. And then I started doing it for other friends' pets and stuff. And that actually ended up being a business that I started on Etsy. So I actually started posting I'll do a digital drawing of your pet in cartoon style on Etsy. And this was I had no clue the power of Etsy. Listed it really quickly and I was like, it turns into something. And it actually grew, which was very surprising. And I started getting crazy amounts of sales. But the problem was after every single order, I had 1 to 2 hours of work to do on every single order.
Oh yeah, nightmare.
Yeah, and I was doing my 9 to 5 at the time because it wasn't making me enough money to quit my 9 to 5 or anything. So I was I would finish work at 5 and then I'd be online till 12 doing these edits or these drawings, and then people would send back edits, and then more and more people were just joining Etsy doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it just became a point where we were lowering our prices for me to be able to try to keep up my sales, and it just stopped becoming worth it.
Totally.
I was thinking and I was what's one way maybe I can increase my order value to make these a little bit worth it? And one thing people had asked me all the time was how do I get these printed? And I would say I don't know, Google your local Staples. I don't know where you live. I don't know how you're going to print that. And I was maybe I can find a way to do it online. And I looked it up, and that's actually how I found out about print on demand. And I was okay, but I didn't think about it as a print on demand store. I thought about it as an upsell at first. So I would message people after I finished and I'd be do you want this drawing on a mug or do you want it on a canvas print? I can do that for you. And then I would charge them an extra $10-15. So I'd get an extra $10-15 on every single one of my orders. And it didn't have to require more work on top of that 1 to 2 hour of designing.
Yeah, because your work, the worst part of it was already done, right? The headache part of actually designing stuff. So that's kind of nuts. So you were doing digital downloads ultimately, but every single one was custom, which is great to set you apart. But yeah, when you're, if you're making a $10 or $15 profit, I don't know what you were selling them for, but if you were, making that kind of money but spending 2 hours doing it at some point, $6-7 an hour sucks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And one thing I realized too, like when you're hunched over like iPad
Oh
for
yeah.
hours a day, like my neck was hurting. I was getting like major like headaches and everything. I was like, I can't do this as a full-time job. Like my body would suffer. I'm sure there's more ergonomical ways
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
set up, but I didn't have them.
Yeah, that's kind of nuts. So now you're doing print on demand essentially, just kind of by default, by evolution. So at what point did you say screw the digital download part, or do you still do that? And like at what point did you decide to go like make print on demand like an option in your shop, like actually selling it actively instead of just as a upsell?
Yeah, so I actually kept that store, but I don't remember what exactly. I think I found a YouTube video. They're not really online as much anymore, but they were super helpful, like Life Hacker Couple.
Okay.
And they had talked about how they made $1 million on Etsy selling print on demand. And they were just selling static, non-customized designs. And that's when I was like, wait, I already know what print on demand is. I already know how Etsy works. Maybe I can just like make some designs and start another store. So I started that second store. So I had 2 going at the time. And that one like took a little bit to get going. It was like different things I had to learn for the like static. But once it started going and it kept just growing, I did do both until I think maybe like Christmas. And then I was just like, I would get so excited when I had a print on demand sale that when I got a digital download sale, I could feel like, oh,
Yeah, because now
I want to do it.
now you got to do 2 hours of work, right?
Exactly, when I saw how much I could make on the ones that I had to do 0 hours of work. And I was like, if I could spend these 2 hours just building up more designs, maybe that's a better use of my time. So eventually I ended up just closing the other store, just focused on my print on demand store.
Nice. So for those of you who don't know, Christina and I met at in Riga, Latvia, of all places. Like we're both Canadian. We live about 2 hours away from each other, but you meet for the first time when life kind of the universe aligns in different ways, right? So we were fortunate enough to have been invited to speak at Printify Amplified. It was the first of its kind ever print on demand summit. So pretty awesome and special to be a part of that. Like I was chatting with Stephen Chin not long ago, and he was just saying too that he was like, Jay, you realize that we're one of 10? Like there's only 10 of us that have ever done that. Like, that was kind of like a little bit of pause there, right? Because like that, you realize the magnitude of that. So to be able to help others in that way is pretty awesome. But something you said at Amplified was like how you went from 30 sales a month to kind of like deciding make or break point with work. And that's I have a very parallel, similar story. It's like you want to do something else. You want to get out of that grind. It's like toxic place and it's beating you down. But at the same time, you don't have all the time to treat it like a business. And when you do, you're doing your 15, 20 hours a day kind of thing of work between the two, to that opening doors for you to being able to travel, do your own thing, and then becoming even content creator. So maybe like walk us through that. So 30 sales a month, clearly not enough to quit your job for.
Yeah, so I think one, I was trying to manage 2 stores plus a full-time job. So I wasn't putting in like the crazy hours into my print on demand store. I was kind of just like had this mindset. I was like, it's just like side income. I didn't have that mindset like, oh, this could be like a full-time thing until like, I think it was October 2 years ago. Yeah, it's probably October 2 years ago, 2021 or September, but October I started getting the sales. So I remember September, I had already started kind of disliking my job. I had moved to a new role that was higher up, a lot more responsibility, a lot more bigger budgets, but it was way more cutthroat. Like people would call you out on Slack. Like Oof. There was just like kind of more argumentative than I was like used to. And I remember I got in trouble and I got reamed out on one of the calls. And I remember just leaving. I was like, I'm going to make something work. I am leaving. I'm going to do anything I can. And like I had already had the print on demand. And I was like, I'm going to make this work. Like, I don't care what happens. I'm going to do something.
That's awesome. Like, so I'm seeing a little bit of a pattern here. So you're getting in trouble at work.
Yeah.
Little rebel there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely echo those sentiments. Like sometimes that workplace culture can just be so toxic. Like there's ways to do things, but people are so frustrated that they don't know or they forget how to communicate with tact. You know what I mean? Like they could have approached it probably, 100 other ways and not reamed you out. Right. And it could have been way more constructive, but it is what it is because they're stressed too. And, those companies will throw pizza and money at you, but they're not going to give you 2-3 weeks off. Right. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're Canadian too. We start with 2 weeks vacation. So that's always fun.
Yeah. So then, you basically got scolded at work again. And then you're like, yeah, no, I'm done with this.
Yeah. And then I think it was all just like everything lined up at a perfect time. Like at that time I had because I did have like those sales for the last few months, even though there were like 30 sales, that's when I started looking back on them and like, okay, which ones are working? What's working? What niche is working for me? What design is working for me? What product is working for me? And I just went crazy on designing. Like I put up so much new designs. Like before I was adding like 2 a week, there I was trying to add like 10 a day. Like I was just going crazy on designing, and it being September that I think like I got reamed out, so it was like September. It was at the beginning of Q4, so it was perfect timing too to like get this all going, because for the sales for the next few months were higher than most.
Yeah.
So all of those could get like a major boost, versus if I waited till January to post them, I wouldn't have kind of reaped the rewards of like climbing the ranks because of sales because of Q4. But like one thing I thought about, it was like, okay, this is going great. This is my first Q4, great, but what's going to happen in January?
For sure.
So I made myself a promise, if I could keep up at least 10 sales a day in January, February, I could quit my job, because that would make it about equal.
So you were doing like 30 sales a day in September, and in October you decided like taking this seriously now, and you're putting up 10 designs a day, which is a lot, right? So like at one point, did you feel like you were getting burnt out, or were you starting to make enough sales to keep you motivated? Like what was October's numbers 2 years ago, but maybe you don't know exact numbers, but do you remember like a steady growth from September to October to November kind of thing?
Yeah, I've always looked at that graph, and it was exponential. So I had like 300 profit month, 300 profit month, 300 profit month, 1,000 profit month, 8,000 profit month, 12,000 profit month.
Wow.
It
So that's October,
like,
November, December. You just went boom, boom, boom to 12.
Yeah, they just like grew like crazy. But yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm just going to stockpile all of this, because I don't know if this is something that's going to last.
Yeah.
But I was definitely very happy. But I wasn't getting my hopes up about quitting my job yet until January.
Sure. And then January hits, and what happened? Everything tanks like it normally does?
It did, but not to the degree I thought it would. So I was expecting, okay, maybe I'm going to be going back to 300 profit a month. I'm going to be going back to 30 sales a month. And what happened was, because I focused on like building evergreen, so I actually sold no Christmas products. So nothing tied to holidays, nothing tied to trends, so that when January, February came, those could still sell. Of course, they weren't selling to the degree of what I was like previous months, but I was still keeping up that 10 sales a day at least, which I had
That's pretty impressive.
Told myself was yeah, I was very happy with that. And then after like a month and a half, I remember I went on a trip to Mexico with some friends, and they all worked for themselves, and I was the only one working a full-time job while we were there for a bit. And my one friend, he was like, "You're gonna quit on this trip." He's like, "Look at what you're doing." He's like, "Show me your numbers." He was like, if you're working 8 hours a day right now and doing this part-time, what happens when you can do this full-time? And every morning he would wake up, I was like, "Did you quit yet?" And then and then during that trip, I actually made the call and quit my job early 2022.
What an awesome group of friends. So there was something that I don't know who said it first, but I remember Gary Vee saying it at one point like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but it was like, you're the product of your closest 5 friends, right? And you're saying you're on a trip, right, with a few friends, and they all work for themselves except you. I've never been in that environment. You kind of attract like-minded people as you do your own thing, but typically, like, I was living in suburbia, and my neighbors were friends, and like same area, grew up, same hood for like 20 years or whatever. And then a lot of my friends were just doing the normal 9 to 5 kind of thing, right? So I never had I would call that a massive privilege or support system of people who are already doing something that you kind of wanted to make happen. So that's pretty cool. So you just quit on a trip. How did that go? Did you just like email them, or was it like a Slack message and blast them back?
It was a message to my boss, a Slack message saying, "Can you hop on a quick call?" And then, yeah, I quit during that. And then after that, we ended up just booking our trip right to Argentina after.
From where? So where were you? Did you go home?
So I was in Mexico.
Right.
So when I quit, I extended my Mexico trip. I flew back, repacked, and then we went to Argentina.
Come on, that's awesome.
A little bit after that.
That's pretty crazy. Okay, so I guess what's the best part about POD? Is it the travel for you? Like, it's not, money is something, obviously. Like, we need money to make the world go round and to provide the experiences. But like for me, for example, like, I don't need to have $1 million in the bank or anything like that. I want to just be able to do kind of what I want when I want. It sounds like you're kind of in that same mindset, right?
For sure. Like, yeah, for me, it's always like, that's always been the main thing on my like vision board, has been travel. Like, anytime I had vacation, I was traveling. Any summers I was traveling. When you start the full-time job and then 2 weeks vacation, it's like, I can't do anything. Like I can work for 5 years to get 3 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
And then and then you're so busy. So yeah, 100%. And like for me, it was hard because I grew up like not thinking I was like that skilled enough to be an entrepreneur. Like you don't have tech skills. You're not like crazy smart or like an engineer like a lot of people that I know that you think of when you have like entrepreneurs. And I'm not like a hustler either. Like during these trips, I would work like until 2 p.m. and then I'd go to the beach and then chill a little bit. And yeah, print on demand was something that's like I could build this up and live the life that I wanted. Travel is a huge part.
And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Like you said, you don't have to be a hustler. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be somebody who's trying to do like 8 different things at once or like work that 9 to 5 and do print on demand. Like the barrier to entry of print on demand is so low, even financially, right? Like you got to have a little bit of money to maybe, you know, get some listings up with Etsy, for example, or pay the print on demand company in advance before Etsy pays you. But you're not talking thousands of dollars here, right? A couple $100 if you can save that. That's the crazy thing, right? So you don't have to be this kind of special wizard or magical unicorn, you know what I mean? And then like you're proof of that. And you know, I'm sure as heck no engineer or anything like that, but like, so to do that and you start treating it like a business and then all of a sudden you're getting the fruits of your labors, right? So like, and then at some point you end up like, you're an influencer, you're a content creator. Like when does that happen, right? So like, you know.
Yeah, so that one was like super, I never, ever thought I would be an influencer.
Is that a trip or like what, right? Like, cause you're on, what are you doing? Are you on the beach and doing Instagram selfies and like, no.
Yeah, that I never thought would be me ever. It actually like started because so that same group of friends, very into like self-improvement, and they were doing a challenge earlier in the year that on Instagram Live, they had to talk for a minute a day to get over their camera shyness. And for me, I was like extremely camera shy. One of me and my friends were like, okay, we're going to do the same thing that they did. We're just going to post to TikTok. And for me, it was at the time that I was getting good sales on print on demand. So I did like a 30 seconds to a minute video and just like, I've just been doing print on demand for the year. Like, here are my results. I was super awkward, had a crazy filter on, and it took me so long. Like I had pushed off doing this for so long, but we said before New Year's, we had to get it posted. And so I posted mine and then we went to a cottage and I woke up in the morning and I had hundreds of thousands of views and like 30,000 new followers from an account. And I was like, what is going on? And people are like, how did you do this? Can you teach me? Like DMs. From there, my videos at the beginning just like went crazy. And I was like, I guess I have to keep doing this. So I was just doing little tips to help people. And then it's kind of just slowly grown from there.
And then at what point do you say like, hey, I'm gonna go to YouTube now? You just decided
YouTube, I think I did a year later. This has actually been my first full year 2023 on YouTube.
Oh wow.
Yeah, back in 2022 was my TikTok growth, and that's when TikTok was really killing it on views and stuff. I think I had a YouTube video or two just to answer questions that didn't fit on TikTok, but this year is when I was like, I'm gonna go on YouTube and make it work.
Oh man, and then you took that kind of same approach, right? Like go full throttle and you blew it up. Like you got almost 30,000 followers now. I was creeping your page for a minute before our call here just to make sure I didn't miss anything, and you almost have 2 million views. So I don't know if you were counting that or checking that out, but that's a pretty awesome stat. That's the other thing. So like now you get to some of the benefits that come with content creation, right? Like there's, you know, for people who don't know, YouTube can pay you, but there's partnerships or sponsorships. I've even seen you on a commercial for my own YouTube video, which is pretty awesome, right?
It's so weird because I'll load my own YouTube video and then that one will play. I'm like, wait, the wrong video's playing. And I'm like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah. So that brings me to another point. Like, you know, a moment when you thought, holy crap, I've made it. Or is it seeing yourself in an ad before your own video? Or is it like when you're sitting there processing orders somewhere else? Like for me, it was like waking up in Costa Rica and working on my laptop for 3-4 hours processing orders. I was doing like the non-hustler idea, like what you were doing, and like trying to get out there and enjoy the day instead of like just grinding 8 hours a day, right? Because this was technically like a 30-day vacation, but I was still working. Didn't sacrifice any money, right? Because you're still making, to me, like starting my day making like $200-300 processing worth of orders. So, you know, profit at the time was about $100-150 a day. This is enough to do everything we want to do every day. So why are we going back in November to Canada in the snow? You know what I mean? So like, is there a point, something like that for you? It was like the epiphany was like, holy crap, I made it, or are you not there yet?
Oh,
because you've made it if you didn't know, right?
For me, like there's a print on demand made it, and then there was like the content creation made it. Print on demand, like there's so many moments that I was just like quitting my job was one, definitely. And then booking my flight right after that was like a holy cow. Yeah, I think that was one of the best ones. The real big one was like, so my biggest goal ever, like it was on everything, was to travel Asia long term. And last year we got rid of all our belongings and traveled Southeast Asia for 6 months. We just bought a one-way ticket, and that was one. We bought a one-way ticket. Didn't know when we were going to come back. We ended up coming back because we had lots of weddings and stuff over the summer. But that was one. Like we got there and we were still like every morning coffee shop. And I think that's one. Just waking up on the beach and going to go work. And I love that type of travel. I don't like to like go every day, but the travel where it's like, I'm going to go to a coffee shop in the morning, and then I'm going to find my favorite place for lunch, and then I'm going to go meet some friends in like a different country. That was really cool.
How special is that, eh? That's kind of nuts. For me, like that novelty, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're like 3-4 months and you still have another 2 months to visit, like touring Asia. Like that's a pretty special thing. I definitely would see how you'd be like, this is pretty awesome. I'd probably just want to keep doing that for the rest of my life, right? Obviously that way.
Yeah.
And then you said there was another one, like, so content creation, was that something part of being in Southeast Asia at that point, or was that the POD?
They were both happening at the same time, but I think one of the biggest moments that I was really proud of, and it's kind of like both, was I actually, while I was there, filmed an episode of Smart Passive Income podcast. Okay. And for me, that was a podcast I listened to try to find a side hustle years ago. So I've been listening to them like crazy. And when they reached out, that was one that was like, I'm going to be on that show that like I listened to and like took inspiration from. That one I was so nervous for that one. I've done all these podcasts before, but that was the one I was like, oh my Lord, that's crazy. And then Latvia for me was one, being with like you and a bunch of other like content creators backstage. I remember sitting there, I was so nervous, but I remember sitting there like, this is insane. Like we're a group of people that met online, that were flown to Latvia, and now we're doing a live summit in front of thousands of people together. And that was something that was like, never in my life would have I guessed we would be doing something like that.
Yeah, and like that to me was one. Like there's been, like you say, there's been like a couple of moments, right? So the Costa Rica one for me was 2018, and then, there's been a couple of kind of like blips that come to mind throughout, but then like coming full circle and being in Printify's headquarters, like I was walking around there. I did a few interviews with some of them. I'm like, this is where their magic happens. And like, they have been instrumental, literally, in me seeing a part of the world that I never even was on my radar, really, and it's like it's the POD mecca of the world, right? So to be there was like super humbling too, and then to be surrounded, like you said, like by a bunch of amazing people who like I was chatting with Stephen about this point too, is like people don't really know, or actually with Leslie, it was like people don't know what it's like to help other people. And so when they say you've reached this level of success, blah blah blah, why are you on YouTube, or why are you doing this, or why are you in the Facebook groups or whatever? It's like, because if you don't know what it's like, you realize that you can do it, and if you can do it, anyone can do it, and you want people to wake up and see that they can get so much more out of life. Like I want people to want more out of life. Like that's probably my number one. And then to be able to say you've helped somebody do something, like I was able to say that I helped a lady spend $300 to buy her husband's insulin for the month, and then she was on track to do that again and again and again, like from deciding on what bills to pay or what to put in the fridge, you know what I mean? To those people, I say, like, if you haven't ever helped anyone, try it. Just try it. It's such a fulfilling thing. And then to have it all come full circle, like we're all getting rewarded for it, which is the universe just kind of like giving it back, which is, I mean, if you can't pay it forward, just try, right?
Yeah. There's nothing like getting that message saying like someone else just hit like their first 100 sales or 1,000 sales, or they're making income now. And to know that you were like part of that journey is like extremely cool. Print on demand's amazing. You get sales, but there's nothing like someone telling you directly that you help them.
Yeah. So I'm super grateful to everyone who's come on the show. Thank you so much for doing this. And to you guys out there, if there's anyone you want to see me interview specifically, let me know in the comments below and I'll do my best to get them on. For sure. Those are like the mini moments for me that always stick, right? It's not something that is going to change my bank account in a big way, but it's definitely something that changes, the way I think and the way I want to. It's motivating too, right? It makes you just want to help more people as fast as possible. Enter the YouTube thing, right? Like, how can I reach as many people as possible for free, right? Like I don't want
Yeah.
to necessarily charge people $1,000 to come listen to me talk anymore. It's more about like try to do something, right? Just get off your butt and do it. If you want to pay $15 for a course or 5,000 for a course, pay whatever it is that gets your ass off that sofa or off that couch and to take action, right? Like you can't really put a price tag on stuff like that. So you've been to a few countries now. You got, a bit of travel under your belt. What's next for you? Is there a favorite country? Are you working on anything? Do you have any more travel plans?
For me, like I got that really, really big trip out of the way. One thing I realized is I do like coming home to see family and everything. So smaller trips are planned. Still to leave for the winter is my big plan. Planning on Portugal for this winter, but just not a 6-month stint again. And then, yeah, I'm just planning to like trying to grow on YouTube. And like you mentioned, for Canadians, I'm actually working on a video right now about Canadian print-on-demand sellers, because that's one question I get all the time is people or Canadians stop because there's different rules. And it can be very overwhelming because all the content out there is for Americans. And I do talk in terms of Americans too, but I also have the Canadian side. So I'm working on a video right now on everything that the Canadian sellers need to know on how I set up my shop and can still be successful in the US market as a Canadian. So
awesome.
Hoping to expand that way.
So make sure you go. I'll leave Christina's link to her YouTube down there. So make sure you go, check that out and subscribe and tick that bell so you know when she drops that video. Because I'm working on one too, but something tells me that yours is going to be something that probably blows people away as usual. So that said, everyone can find you at your YouTube channel. But like, what would you say in terms of people, like not just Canadians, but people in general who want to get into this? And like, where do I start? How do I need a niche? What is a niche? Is it even worthwhile? How do I find winning products? Like, is there any kind of tools or anything you use? Because I know when I started, for example, there were no tools, there were no Facebook groups, there were no YouTube. I've been at this 10 years. There was nothing for a resource other than like calling a screen printer buddy or talking to a friend who was doing his own print on demand with vinyl, and there weren't the resources that there are now. So A, do you use tools for research? And B, if you do, what are they?
Yeah, so when I first started, I actually did not use any tools. I didn't know they existed either when I started, but I didn't know to use them. I was just throwing everything up and seeing what happens. My beliefs have changed a little bit since then, thinking it can really help you. Do I think that they are set in stone? Some of it should be taken with a grain of salt. Yes, because none of them are 100% accurate, but they can really help with ideas. So the two that I really use, I use eRank to find niches and to find what maybe product I want that niche on. And then I use Everbee to do research to find what type of designs are doing well. Because one thing I think I notice when I see people's stores is I can tell if they haven't studied top selling designs yet. Because what I did at the beginning, I just threw up anything, any template I could find on Canva, anything on a shirt, and they didn't sell. And then I started learning what type of designs, what type of fonts and everything are selling. And that kind of helped. But I think by doing your research, you can get a grasp on that earlier than I did. And then eRank to help just validate your niches and to see if you want to design for it.
Yeah, those are probably my top two that way too, because like you can, eRank has great historical data too for keywords over time, right? So you can go back and look at you can see the little graph that ramps up going into Q4 and stuff like that. The Chrome extension for Everbee just makes it idiot proof, I think. Yeah. So that brings me to the segue of my Q4 ramp up there. Any Q4 tips or advice you would offer? Like, is there like one big thing or one or two tips or I don't know, whatever you got, right?
Yeah. So for me, my biggest one, and if you've listened to me before, you've probably heard me say this, but as a new seller, I would not be focusing on Christmas products. So I say that because exactly what I talked about earlier. If you want to keep seeing sales in January, February, you don't want all your time going towards designing for Christmas sweaters, because no matter how high you climb over the next few months for a Christmas sweater, it's not selling in January and February. Versus if you have like an evergreen product, which is like a hobby, say like a knitting shirt, that can still sell in January and February as gifts because it's not tied to a holiday. And for Christmas as well, what do people buy more? Gifts or Christmas sweatshirts? They might buy themselves one Christmas sweatshirt, but they're buying gifts for everybody they know. And when you buy gifts, they're not Christmas themed because by the time the person opens it, Christmas is done. So I think for people wanting a store that has consistent year-long sales, not to be focused on just chasing trends and chasing the holidays, because you're just doing exactly that. You're just constantly chasing, versus getting an evergreen, which could be like hobbies, careers, pets, that can set you up for longer term success. You're still going to see like the highs and lows of like just shopping trends in terms of like Q4 and stuff, but you're not going to flatline after every single holiday date passes.
I couldn't agree more. You know, everybody that's, oh, gotta do Halloween or gotta do Christmas. So what are you gonna do in January, February, March, all the way to next September, right? Like, you can't, you know, yes, you have the peaks, but the valleys are deep and they're long, right? So the evergreen stuff is fantastic when you realize that you can make a Christmassy version of that evergreen niche you're in too, if you want, you know, to boost a little spike there. But ultimately, at the end of the day, your cat shirts are going to sell all year round, right? And that's what you want when you're in the space. And you know, you don't want to have those dry months, because then you start second guessing everything in your life, right? I've been there.
Yeah, and I have so many students message me when they chased one holiday and they like got all their hopes up, and then they're like, I haven't had a sale since. And I'm like, well, you put all of your early time into that one holiday, so you'll see it sale next year.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be, and maybe a few one-offs, but it's not going to be like some other niches out there.
Well, there you have it, folks. Christina's Q4 tips. We are 1 week in right now, maybe a week and a half in by the time you guys are seeing this. So go to her YouTube channel. I'll link in the description if you haven't already. Most of you probably, obviously, already know who she is. But go check out her channel, show some love. Thank you so much, Christina, for being here. This is truly, truly a special gift to have you on the show. So I look forward to following your, you know, travel escapades and everything else. So
yeah, thank you so much. And I really look forward to like seeing yours too. People didn't know Jay's traveling the world soon.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, we're moving to Belize in like 2 weeks. I think we're starting the car. So gonna be a little bit of a crazy adventure. Yeah, thanks again. All the best to you going forward, and good luck with Q4. Hope the sales keep ka-chinging.
You too. Thank you so much for having me.